Hello and welcome again to another episode of Battle Ready. Drake is off today. He's out doing some fun things with some friends, but that gave me the opportunity to talk a little bit about painting. Now, it's no secret, I've said it many times, painting's not really my favorite part of the hobby. I'm much more interested in the playing and to a lesser extent the building and the lore. But painting is a thing I do because it makes playing fun, right? It's way more fun to play with painted models than with armies of gray. So I thought I would talk about some painting experience. So I have here, I'm going to put some bigger pictures up, but I've got some Zangor Enlightened on discs that came with the Tzeentch versus Kharadron box a couple years ago. These weren't exactly the first models that I'd painted, but they were early in my painting career. Um, I think I had the starter box of Stormcast and Nighthaunt, and I might have painted a few more models, but pretty early. And I wanted to compare that to just not too long ago for my birthday, I received another pack of Zangor Enlightened on disc. And so I got to paint up the same models again. And it's been about 2 years, 2.5 years between paint jobs. And so it gave me a chance to sort of compare and contrast. Um, the first thing I want to do is say when I look at these models, I 100%, and I would recommend this for anybody who's painting, whether you're a beginner painter or somebody far more advanced than me, is unless the goal is to paint a very high quality model. You're not as interested in the game, you're not as interested in the lore or whatever, but the purpose of this activity, the purpose of this hobby for you is to create the highest quality mini paint job you can. Great. Nothing wrong with that. More power to you. Awesome. But for me, that was initially at least a little bit of a stumbling block. I mean, you see the pictures in the magazines, you see the box art, you see people on YouTube that are just phenomenal painters. And then you look at what you produce, especially in the beginning, and you think, ugh, it doesn't look anything like that. Where's the depth? Where's the contrast? So I think one of the things that helped me get over that and just start cranking out models is I realized, you know, the perfect can sometimes be the enemy of the good. And if I paint these models hoping to get the most beautiful model, first, it's going to take me forever. Second, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I have the skills or the talent, especially early on, still true today, to do anything of that high quality. But that wasn't the purpose, right? The purpose was to get something on the table that enhanced my enjoyment of the game. And after playing many games, it turns out that, if you have a little mistake here or there, if you have you know, uh, the color scheme maybe isn't exactly right, when you're looking at the model from the table, when you're looking at it from a couple feet away, they look great. They look good, right? Your imagination sort of fills in the gaps. So that helped me paint a lot more. And in painting a lot more, the quality did go up, although again, you know, comparatively, it went up. I'm not saying I'm good at all. I'm at a battle ready standard for sure. Uh, but more importantly, things went quicker. It became a lot easier. I got a couple of extra tools like contrast paints that made things easier, and that made the task less burdensome. Painting up the original Enlightened was a little bit of a chore because I had to go through it. I had to think about schemes. I had to work on my brush control. I had to fix a lot of errors. Painting up the new Enlightened, I still have to work on all those things, and I still had to fix some errors, but a lot fewer. And so I was able to finish the models much more quickly. And for me, that's a success, right? The less time I can spend painting means more time for playing or for reading lore or for anything else. But it does mean that when I play, it's going to be a better game because it's just funner. So I wanted to take a quick look at these and just sort of see how far I'd come. When I look at the old Zangor, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think they're fine. I think they still look good on the tabletop. I'm happy to play these. Right? Like I said, I think sometimes, especially when I first started painting miniatures, because I first started painting miniatures that come in board games, little board game minis, and it was real hard because I had this feeling, and I think a lot of people do, that I don't want to mess up. I don't want to mess it up, and then it looks worse than if I hadn't painted at all. Now, let me tell you, some of my early paint jobs, some of my later paint jobs are not good. And if you were to look at them up close, they're actually quite poor. But when they're on the table, especially because those miniatures tend to be a little smaller as well, it's fine. Nobody's looking that hard at your minis, and it feels cool to have a guy with metallic armor and to have an archer who's got her bow and it's all painted up and it looks more realistic than just a blue plastic or something like that. So anyway, as I look at these old guys, one thing that I notice is their skin is a little flat. I think basically all of the depth was built with washes, whether probably like an army painter, blue tone or something like that. I think that the metallic is a little plain. And I think that the discs are fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with the discs. One's sort of metallic, and then there's one that's a little bit blue, one that's a little bit red. But there's not a lot of contrast. So on the table, they just look a little bit drab, especially the leader. The blue of the disc on my palette looked a lot different from the blue of his skin. But when you put them together, I mean, they're different, but not that different. And when you look at them on the, from the tabletop, they just sort of, it just sort of looks blotchy. Now compare that to the new guys. So the new guys, I tried something a little different where I tried to highlight the muscles a little bit more. And so you can see that a little bit better. Now, if you look at them real close, and you can probably see them close in the pictures that are going to be up here, they're not a great paint job, right? If this were in a magazine with a beautiful photo, it wouldn't look the best. But it does provide a lot of contrast. And sometimes on the tabletop, when you're looking at it from far away, that's really all your eye picks out is the highs and the lows. So having those highs and the lows makes the musculature stand out a little bit more. I also went with a lot bolder colors for the discs. I basically just went with complementary colors. So I've got blue and orange, yellow and purple, and red and green. I think those are the complementary colors. Not super good with the color wheel. I also used a little wash to tint their weapons so they look a little, bit off, a little more Zinchian. And I think they turned out real well. I think that between the contrast paints and between some of the techniques I've used, I really like these ones. I think if I were to, typically in my list, I'm fielding 2 of these right now, or at least a unit of 6, because Zangor Enlightened are my jam, as it turns out. But if I were to field only one, I would pick the newer ones. I like them better. I think they look more vibrant and dynamic on the tabletop. Even though I'm certainly happy to have the old ones around as well. So for anybody who's a little bit nervous about painting models or scared that they're going to mess up, you're not. You're not going to, I mean, you are. You're going to make mistakes. But the model, when you're done with it, is going to look better than it looked gray. It might not even be a great paint job. You might have basically just base coats on there. It's still going to look better than gray. It's still going to look better because gray has the worst problem where it all just sort of melds together and it's a blob. But if at least, his sword is silver and he's got a green tunic and he's got brown pants, so they're leather, it makes him look more alive. And when you see him on the tabletop, even if it's just base coats, you can look at him or her and say, all right, yeah, I can tell that's a ranger, or I can tell that's a wizard, or whatever it is, rather than just, oh yeah, you can tell the tallest one, that's the barbarian, or whatever. So, I mean, the bottom line is just take your paintbrush, take your paint and start putting it on models. It'll look better. And over time, as you keep doing it, not only will your games be more enjoyable because you've got painted models to play with, but you'll get better and you'll get faster. Now, you might never be like the magazines and the YouTubers. I know I never will. I mean, that's just not in the cards. I don't have really an artistic bone in my body. In fact, somebody once told me, they came over and they saw my minis I was painting. I can't even remember. And they said, "Oh, are you an artist?" And I told them, "No. What I do is like one step above paint by numbers, right? I find I take the base coat and then I just wash it on, and then maybe a little highlight, and I'm good to go. And then I move on. So very little artistry in what I do, but you can still get something that looks very, very good in play. Definitely, if you're at all hesitant, start trying it out. Get yourself a starter set, start painting, and maybe you'll enjoy it. I don't particularly enjoy it, but even if you don't enjoy it, you'll enjoy the games. If you like playing, you will like playing with painted models. So I think that if you are at all hesitant, go for it. You'll see progress over time. It's just inevitable when it comes to practice. When it comes to painted up minis, let me know in the comments below. Are you an avid painter? And what level do you want to get to? When you paint, do you want every single model to be gorgeous and to be a perfect or near perfect representation of the unit on the battlefield so that you can take pride in the look of the army as much as in piloting it? And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's sort of cool. I've definitely seen some armies that were just fantastic. Or you're a little bit more like me, where you're painting to get something that you're, happy to see from a couple feet away and really enlivens the game? Or are you somebody who's, more hesitant to put paint on a miniature? Definitely let me know in the comments below. I would love to discuss. And anybody who's got some Tzaangors, I'd love to see your creations as well. This has been another episode of Battle Ready. Thanks so much for watching.